Lighten up, take me on your magic river. Tell me all your dreams align. Sign me up and tell me about the people that you know who are trying to feel alive. Life can get hard, so honey, if you need to cry, just come share my pillow and rain, rain, go away. I wanna hear
to a new vlog. This is going to be a 5-star prediction vlog, and hopefully those expectations are satisfied, they're met. I don't know yet, it's Monday, but I do want to go through the weekly TBR. Then I have some book mail to open with you guys. This week is basically like the dream of spring, the fall spring. We're going to be in the upper 70s this week, and I am pumped because I love to be outside. And then the racing season starts back this week for local racing, and it just feels like spring is so close, and that's super exciting. But we do have the quote of the week, and that is, "Books are only as good company if you have the right sort," by Louisa May Alcott. That's the writer of Little Women. I have not read that. I own it. I got it at a little free library. Just a random suggestion for you guys. Look for classics at little free libraries. That's always where I find classics. Free, great, you know? And I mean, you're even supporting the environment because you're recycling books in a way. But let's go through the weekly TBR. I'm going to be starting possibly 3 new books today, but right now we know of 2, and one of those being cat poems. Look at that. I got this up at Lake Murray back in like July at Wingard's garden center, and really recommend going there. I love a good like garden center hardware store. This is just a garden center, but it was super cute, and they had a few little poetry books, and y'all know I'm a cat person, and Black Cat at that. So this is just poems about cats. It says, "Across the ages, cats have provided their adopted humans with companionship, affection, mystery, and innumerable metaphors. Cats cast a mirror on their beholders. Cats endlessly captivate and hypnotize, frustrate and delight. To poets in particular, these enigmatic creatures are most delightful and beguiling of muses as they purr, prowl, hunt, play, meow, and nap, often oblivious to their so-called masters." I think that's going to be fun. Next, we have the book that I wanted to finish yesterday. I started this in last week's vlog, but the Grammys happened, and yeah, I just didn't have time, especially I was out of town on Saturday, came home Sunday, which those clips will be at the very end of the vlog after the credits roll. And yeah, I did read while I was out of town, but just not as much as I usually would. But this is Disillusioned, 5 Families, An Unraveling of America's Suburbs by Benjamin Harrold. I have about 30 minutes left in the audiobook, but this is really looking at, it says suburbs, but I honestly think this is a school districts, in my personal opinion, in public schools in America, but public schools that happen to be in the suburbs, why these communities are viewed the way that they are, and the impact that has on education. And this is taking place between 2020 school year. If you know, you know. That's when shit hit the fan. Sorry, but that's when that happened. Then this is going to be our mood read, which I have not started this one yet either. So it said, "Followed by Millions, Watched by One, People Like Her" by Ellery Lloyd. This is a thriller that is about like mom influencers, you know, like family vloggers. So it says, "A razor sharp, wickedly smart suspense debut about an ambitious influencer mom whose soaring success threatens her marriage, her morals, and her family's safety." And I think this is in the UK, I think. And then lastly, we have my ebook, which is Go Tell the Bees, that I'm going by Diana Gabaldon. This is the 9th and most recent book in the Outlander series. This is following a family during the American Revolution with some time travel elements involved, and that one doesn't match the rest of the series that I have because they don't, it's been out for 4 years and they don't have the mass market out yet. I don't know how that works. But I do have, sorry for the nose running, I do have my book package that I want to show y'all. I got my book of the month package today in the mail. It says these are good books, and there's another tag because I have already opened it because I wanted to film my TikTok. But for you guys, as you can see, this is a very little box because I'm trying to not buy as many this year. Getting ink all over me, but oh, I did get some of my pants. Fiction forward, yes, we only got fiction. This one's, oh, it just said book of the month on the side, but let's see what I got. I'm definitely gonna have to wash my hands after this. The first one, out of the main picks, I really didn't know there were none like last month where I was like, oh my gosh, I want all of these. But I went with Blackwoods Blue Sky by Owen Ivy. Owen, I guess is how you would say that. It says, Owen Ivy returns to the mythical landscapes of Alaska with an unforgettable dark fairy tale that asks questions. Can love save us from ourselves? And there's just some magical realism, and nature plays a really big role. And y'all know I love nature writing, but it says Blackwoods Blue Sky is a novel with life and death stakes about the love between a mother and daughter and the allure of wildlife, about what we gain and what it might cost us. Next, this was my add-on. I don't remember what book it was that I read in January that got compared to this book, saying this book that I got is the better version of the book that I read. Was it Fever by Dion Meyer? Because I think they're both post-apocalyptic books. I know Fever was, but yeah, we'll just have to see. I saw it in a review, but this is The Fury by Alex Michael-Dellis, which that's who wrote The Silent Patient, and a lot of people like, I think it was The Silent Patient. Yeah, we're confirming. Yeah, so a lot of people, they loved The Silent Patient by this author, and they were all like, so, oh, and authors from Cyprus. I don't know if I've read from somebody from there, but then here like released The Maidens, and people hated it. It was a very like decisive book. Like people either loved it or they hated it, and most of everybody I saw hated it. And then this one, I'm not exactly sure, but it says this tale is of murder. Okay, yeah, this does remind me, because Fever has a murder thing in like the last part. Or maybe that's not quite true. At its heart, it's a love story, isn't it? So Lana Farah is a reclusive ex-movie star and one of the most famous women in the world. Every year, she invites her closest friends to escape the English weather and spend Easter on her idyllic private Greek island. I tell you this because you might think you know this story. You probably read about it at the time. Okay, maybe it's not Fever, because this is like celebrities and movie stars. I don't know. We will just have to find out together. But this cover has only shown me in. And they gave us another kind of like dirty bookmark this month. And I'm always just like, I bet this ruffles feathers Mom somebody. I honestly don't care. I'm not really looking at my bookmark. But I know like some people would probably be like offended by it. Some of the more like dirty choices, like yeah, when they had like the reading is sexy hats, like I don't want to wear a hat that says sexy on it. I just think that's very like dated. Like in 2012, like the swag era, I feel like that was okay, but like now it's just kind of like, I'm a grown woman. So book of the month, and the little tagline is guaranteed climax every time, from Michaela S. in Inwood, West Virginia, who's been a member since 2020. I don't know, how did people get these quotes on here? I don't have one. I'm just curious. Like I don't think they've ever asked me for a quote, but that is my book mail. That was the TBR. I'm gonna read cat poems now. I finished Disillusioned. There's too many S's in that word. I don't know why I still have that thing on, and I still have my box cutter in here. This is dangerous. I don't even have that just in here, but I am going to start The Marriage Portrait at 6, which is our 5-star prediction book. I want to go through what it's about with y'all. Here is the book. This is a book I pre-ordered right time I heard about it, even though I gave her other book like a 3. Shivers. I know, I'm cold because I was outside where it's warm, and then my house is always Antarctica. But let's see what this book is about. I'm like really like orangey today. I have a lot of browns and blush, and then my shirt and the book. This is a historical fiction and by Maggie O'Farrell. I don't know if I said it's by Maggie O'Farrell. Let's see what it's about here. So Florence, the 1550s. Lucrezia, third daughter of the Grand Duke, is comfortable with her obscure place in the palazzo, free to wonder at its treasures, observe its clandestine workings, and devote herself to her own artistic pursuits. But when her older sister dies on the eve of her wedding to the ruler of Ferrara, Modena, and Reggio, Lucrezia is thrust unwittingly into the limelight. The Duke is quick to request her hand in marriage, and her father just as quick to accept on her behalf. Having barely left girlhood behind, Lucrezia must now make her way in a troubled court whose customs are opaque and where her arrival is not universally welcomed. Perhaps most mystifying of all is her new husband himself, Alfonso. Is he the playful sophisticate he appeared to be before their wedding? The aesthete? Happiest in the company of artists and musicians, or the ruthless politician before whom even his formidable sisters seem to tremble? As Lucrezia sits in constricting finery for a painting intended to preserve her image for centuries to come, one thing becomes worryingly clear. In the court's eyes, she has one duty: to provide the heir who will shore up the future of the Farese dynasty. Until then, for all her rank and nobility, the new Duchess's future hangs entirely in the balance. Full of the drama and verve with which she illuminated the Shakespearean canvas of Hamlet, Maggie O'Farrell brings the world of Renaissance Italy to jewel bright life and offers an unforgettable portrait of a resilient young woman's battle for her very survival. We'll have to see how this goes. I mean, I am kind of nervous because of how Hamnet went for me. Hopefully I like this better. That is the plan. Hamnet, I think I would like better on reread, because at first I was like, yeah, we can unhaul it. But then I kept thinking and thinking about it. And I think that's really important when a book can leave such an impact on you, that it did something for your life. And hopefully this one can as well, but this one is a stronger setting for me. And I mean, at least I think I'm gonna like the characters because they're Medici, and y'all know I read anything on the Medici, like give it to me. So yeah, I'm gonna start that at 6. Again, for Disillusioned, I did finish Disillusioned, and if you would like my thoughts on that, I posted reviews on Goodreads, Storygraph, and Fable, and one will be going up on Bookstagram in the coming days. Reading update time for you lovely people. I only read 32 pages in here. I read for an hour and a half and only read 32 pages. That tells you something about the writing style. It was the same with Hamnet, where it's a lot of info. Disoriental, which was a 5-star, is very similar, but this is... that writing just makes me want to give it a 4-star at the moment, but maybe it's just because the time of day that I'm at and everything, starting at nighttime rather than daytime. I know y'all are probably like, that is crazy talk, but I do think there is a method for how all of that works. But I did take, let's say, 4 notes for the descriptive writing. That was 1 note, but I did take some notes, even though it was only 32 pages that I read. So it's a great intro. We start out, let me show you. This is literally like the 2nd page, so I'm not spoiling anything. We have these quotes, because you know some books start with that, and then historical note. In 1560, 15-year-old Lucrezia de Cosimo de' Medici left Florence to begin her life with Alfonso II d'Este, Duke of Ferrara. Less than a year later, she would be dead. The official cause of her death was given as putrid fever, but it was rumored that she had been murdered by her husband. So when we first start, we are starting in 1561, when she is going on this like ill-fated trip with her husband. Then after that chapter, we go back to Florence, back to the day she was conceived, and we're going through, you know, her whole life. Is one of those kind of books, which I do like. And reading this, I'm like, yes, this is the kind of historical fiction I want to be reading. but maybe do the audiobook. Should I look into doing the audiobook? I don't know. Do I want to spend money? I don't know. We'll just have to see. If it's free, I'll do it. But if I have to pay, I'm not going to do it. But I thought that was a great intro of starting like, yeah, she's going to die. And this is her life story. And yeah, the way it was done, it was very well. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to give me major inspo. Then I love that we're just seeing a lot of internal, why am I doing all that? Internal character work. Or we're just seeing her thoughts and everything, especially in that first chapter of how she is seeing this situation with her husband where she is thinking this man's going to kill her. And then even just going to the next 2 chapters that I read of, it's just great character work, being in the head of a character. And with Eleonora, who is Lucrezia's mother, when I told you, like, we start with, like, the day that Lucrezia is conceived. And I think it's just so realistic to how the human mind works, because she's somebody who she really likes maps and all that stuff, and she's trying to city planning, essentially. I don't know, that's what it would have been called back in the, what are we in the 1500s? 1500s, yeah. And she just has, her husband lets her do basically anything that she wants, which she understands she's incredibly lucky because that's not common at the time. And these are all real people, I should let y'all know. These are real documented historical figures. And so she's thinking about this, but then her husband comes in and, you know, he's just wanting to have sex with her because he is loyal to her and everything. And but her mind is just like elsewhere. It's just so scattered. And I'm like, yeah, it's incredibly realistic. And then this quote, once we do get to Lucrezia, what I'm reading now is her as a little girl, and her dad, he likes to show off. The Medici are the richest family in Europe at the time, and they are just extremely bougie, extremely extra, which that's not how the family started when they, you know, came to fame. But he has lions and gorillas, like, that fight each other in the basement. And that just had me thinking, I'm like, did they know, like, well, one, I don't know when fights in the Colosseum ended in the Roman Empire, and were they aware that, I mean, we're aware, so they had to be aware that there were fights between, like, man and tiger and that kind of thing. But so he's bringing a tiger to Florence. Like, he heard about one, like, he saw a painted one, and he's like, yeah, you're bringing one to Florence. And so it's this whole journey. They had to go, like, I love how it said, like, this person had told this person, that person had told this person, blah, 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 to get go to Bingo, I don't know how you say it, but to get a tiger and bring it to Italy. And we see Lucrezia, she's really sensitive hearing, and she can hear not a roar, but this is a description. A creature captured against its will. A creature whose desires have all been disregarded. And I thought that was because she's seeing the tiger locked in this cart. And I think that was just such great imagery, and how for a woman of that time, she doesn't want to marry this man that she's going to marry. And she's kind of the oddball of her family, the black sheep. But in this time period, women were destined to do one thing: get married, you know, provide heirs. And I think that's very much what we're going to see later on, just foreshadowing of she's going to feel like that creature captured against his will, whose desires have all been disregarded, when we go back to that first chapter of her as an adult, because she's only a teenager, married to that man, locked in a marriage that she doesn't want to be in. Nobody cared that she didn't want to be in it, but for political gain and everything, she had to marry that man. Those are my notes on the marriage portrait. Yeah, just a bit overwritten, a bit much for me, but, you know, we're making do. Wednesday reading update time. I have my notes here. I read 45 pages, getting me to, I think it was like 21%, not 100% on what the percent was. How many times can we say percent? I think that was 4. But I do have notes. Let's talk about what is happening. I think our main points today were the tigress, you know, meeting the tiger, and Lucrezia finding out that she is going to be getting married to the son of the Duke of Ferrara. That's who it was. And we start off with a quote that I liked, or think will be relevant to the story. Taken from a far off place. That is kind of the premise of this, and left here in a stone cell. This was about the tiger, obviously coming from Bengal to Italy and being left in a basement. And that made me think of how we know Lucrezia is going to be in this arranged marriage, and out of her siblings, she is the one who has had to leave Florence when all her other siblings have gone to stay there. And she is, in the first chapter, she's being taken to this hunting lodge that is made out of stone, and I thought that was just the metaphor. She's talking about the tiger, but we can relate it to what happens to her in the future. And then in those chapters where we are there with her when she is a wife, and the anticipation of how her husband will kill her, even if he does kill her, we do not know. But by the way, how we had that historical note at the start, it really seems like he is going to murder her, and there's this anticipation of what's going to happen. Is he actually going to murder her? What will be, like, how he does it? What is his motive? It's going to be really interesting to see how all of that plays out. And then on 46, we have the Lions Society overpowering and Lucrezia. Again, just parallels with Lucrezia of the tigers or the lions and the tiger fighting. And it's that society overpowering, because, you know, those two against one with these beasts. Is that a simile, metaphor for, I regret not remembering all those literary terms that I learned in high school, but are those lions and tiger fight, is that a representation of how Lucrezia and women at this time are overpowered, their desires, their wants, it doesn't matter, and they're overpowered because of society, that it's up to the man of the family what happens to his children, and more specifically his daughters. And there's something that, like, I feel kind of gross at myself for saying this, but we have Lucrezia, when she's at this hunting lodge, thinking of her childhood, thinking of the tiger, thinking of the menagerie of animals that her father kept. And I'm like, what if she just told all this to Alfonso? That would probably make their marriage a lot better, because from what we're seeing, he doesn't seem like this awful person, but she's been told that he isn't as he appears. So I'm like, what if she was just open with him? Would that make their relationship better if she told him all of these things? And I just feel like gross saying, your relationship wouldn't be so bad if you did this. Y'all get what I'm saying? And then this one, I think there's a lot of how you can compare this to modern relationships. We see her making excuses, being like, why would I think this? And just making up stuff in her head and really living inside of her head, and with being in this bad relationship, from what we've heard, that it is a bad relationship. And obviously it's gross with him being her being half his age and all of that, but besides that point of is this survival instincts of, she's like, okay, I have to behave like this for him to like me and not kill me, because she's thinking that he's going to kill her. And I just think you can compare all of that stuff, and how people will make excuses for the ones that they are supposed to love. You know, like, they'll make excuses even if the other partner is an awful person. And we have another theme is autonomy, body autonomy, I can't say it. It's something we hear about a lot now. And I think it's the cards you're dealt, because we have her mother, who I told y'all yesterday is very lucky and gets to do basically anything she wants. Her father got to marry for love, and her mother has it just very easy. But then we have Lucrezia, who the hand of cards that she was dealt was completely different, where she is marrying this way older man, and he wasn't even the man who she was destined to, I guess you can say, because he was supposed to marry her sister. And just how the different cards you're dealt in life and how you can deal with it, that's just how life works. And at this time, there was no autonomy. Like, women did not have that. It was all decided because of, or by the men around them. And I mean, kind of timely thinking of things that are happening to women. And then this is just a phrase that I like, ghost of her own desire. And those are my thoughts and updates for the marriage portrait today on Happy Wednesday. I did go to Target today, but I didn't buy any books because I had to buy so many groceries because the Super Bowl is this weekend. And last year I made the mistake of looking for, you know, the food that I would have for the Super Bowl, looking for it the day of, and having to go like way down a list of other options because I wanted to make my own wings. I didn't want to just get the kind that, you know, go in the freezer and you put in the oven. I want to do my own thing. So I was able to get everything that I need for the Super Bowl, and then just other like, well, other groceries and other household items. So I didn't buy any books today, but I do have a reading update on The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. Let me get my notes here and get the book so y'all can see what I am talking about. This is a Reese's book club pick, by the way, and I don't think it fits that vibe at all. I think this is a lot, and yeah, I don't think for that kind of book club, for a celebrity book club, I don't think it would be a good one. But for like a book club where you know the people involved and all of that, I think it would work better, just because I think this book can be a bit heavy, and we will talk about that, the long-winded writing. But we have the diary talks and how all this is going on. Oh, well, our main thing of today is Lucrezia in the early days of her marriage, of finding out that it's about to happen, then getting married, and what the days after the wedding are like. But the diary talks, and what I'm saying is that there are these talks of arranging the marriage, but life is just going on around her, even though she feels like her world is ending. And I just think they did a good job with that. And then long-winded takes forever to get to the point. There will be 2 very long paragraphs, and I'm like, we only needed the one and you would get your point across. I don't know why we need a second paragraph that is saying basically the same exact thing as that first paragraph and not adding anything new to the story. Just not my cup of tea for writing. And then just theories about how she dies and how he could do it. I'm not going to say all that, but again, more symbolism with the tiger. We have her in the cart going to the wedding and all the people of Florence cheering around her and all of that, because like this is their royal wedding. They're not, you know, royalty, but they're the bigwigs in the town. And so to think of our royal weddings that we have today, and it was like that. And this is an immersive atmosphere. I do think the atmosphere is one of the high points of this, but I think it could have even been, it's very well researched, but maybe a little too researched, because there will be all these terms and I'm like, I have no idea what that means. So I wish there was a glossary for some of these terms, and there, the ones that I'm not understanding are nouns. So it's a person, place, or thing. And I'm like, what is that? So I do wish there was a glossary, but the author Maggie O'Farrell is doing a great job of just putting you into the character's shoes and feeling everything that our character of Lucrezia is feeling. And there are a lot of points where it feels almost like she's delusional, at like the people around her thinking she's delusional, like she's thinking that, you know, her husband's going to kill her. And I think you can relate that to today, when a lot of people, when they're in bad situations, are being like, hey, I'm being abused or something like that, you know, or I've been assaulted, and people just don't believe it, or they're like, that's not what's happening. And I think you can definitely relate what she's going through to the modern day world setting. And this is just a random thing I've picked up on that I never knew about with history in Italy, is these languages. We have Neapolitan, Tuscan, and I'm assuming there's something different in Ferrara, which I think is how you say where her husband is the Duke of. But I assume they were all speaking Latin at this point. So now I'm like, even in the Roman Empire, so the early Roman Empire, late Republic era, what language was everybody speaking? And y'all know the show Romulus that I've been watching, I did get back to watching it today. That show is told in archaic Latin, and that is taking place in the 8th century BC. But we have Eleonora, who is of Spanish descent, and in Naples, who, when she goes to marry Lucrezia's father, Cosimo, that she has to learn Tuscan. And I'm like, Tuscan? What's that? When did modern day Italian emerge? And how, I'm just so shocked that all these different city-states in Italy were speaking different languages. I never knew that. And all these nonfiction books I've read about the Medici and all, you would think that would have come across. And so what were they speaking in Milan? Because y'all know Milan's where I was in Italy, and is like the best place I've ever been. So I'm super curious, what were they speaking? And when did all of these languages, because I know when Italy united as a kingdom, and then the world wars, and then we have the Italy that we have today, but when did all of this start speaking one thing? And what is Latin? Like, with all this, I'm really confused by the languages, and so I might need to look up the language history of Italy. I don't think you'll have any spoilers for this if I look that up. I'm going to do that because, sorry, excuse me, I really am curious, because I had never known that they were all speaking different languages in these different regions of Italy. Happy Thursday. I've gotten to 75% in the marriage portrait, and since this is the last day of the vlog, and I do think I'll finish the book tomorrow, so stay tuned to all my bookish social media for a written review. It will be on Storygraph, Bookstagram, Goodreads, Fable, all of the places. But I do just want to go through like the cop house system with my thoughts rather than just reading notes. But let's talk about what was happening in the book today. We have Lucrezia's really getting to know who her husband is as a person, and meeting his family, and going to his hometown of Ferrara. Is that the hometown or is that the region? I don't know, but going to, you know, the castle he grew up in, all of that for the first time. Let's go into characters. I do think this is really immersive, and it's going to be a lot of internal stuff, and I'm saying immersive as immersive character work. You're really put into Lucrezia's shoes, and it's not just at her perspective, the majority of the book is, but like, as I've been saying, the book starts when she is conceived, so obviously that's probably somewhere in time somebody has done a book where it's at the perspective of an embryo and all of that, but besides the point, it was at her mother's perspective at that. But the majority of the book is told at Lucrezia's perspective, but with that character work, it's really immersive. You're put right into her shoes. You are feeling the emotions that she's feeling, and you can just really feel how her brain is working. Like, if she's feeling scatterbrained, you're going to feel scatterbrained. And I think that's really cool when an author can really make you feel for the character. So I would give the character work, I don't know if I'd give it a full 5-star, because I don't know if I feel a strong emotional connection, but I do think you are put into her shoes quite well. Atmosphere is the best part, in my opinion. I would give the atmosphere a 5-star. It's definitely well researched. I talked about it yesterday. It might be a little too well researched. I wish that we had a glossary. I do know there's like a historical note or something at the back of the book, an author's note that is going like into the history and everything, but that's not enough. There are just some like Italian phrases and everything that I'm not familiar with. Oh, and I did look up about the languages. So in the Roman Empire, Republic, all of that era, so I specifically looked up the late Republic, they spoke Latin. And there was High Latin, then Vulgar Latin, which is what was being spoken on the streets. And Latin really fell when the Roman Empire fell in the 500s, I'm saying when it fell in the West. And that is when you had all these different dialects of Latin, and we talked about Tuscan in here. So the modern Italian language that we have is derived from the Tuscan dialect of Latin. So there's the answer to that question. But yes, so I think the atmosphere is amazing and definitely my favorite part. I have been taking pictures of the pages that I think just really showcase this historical setting and everything. But again, there are some terms I think this book would have benefited from a glossary, but you're usually not going to get that in these like literary pretentious, I would say this is a pretentious thing. And that's something I was thinking about, because I'm like, this really, in historical fiction, the long scheme of things, of a girl having to be married to an older man and in an arranged marriage, you see that a ton in historical fiction. Like you're going to see that in Philippa Gregory, Alison Weir, those kind of books. And those are your more commercial historical fiction, in my opinion. But on like bookish social media, you more so see them go into these like Maggie O'Farrells who maybe are not as commercial and are more of a literary historical, and it's a whole different vibe, even though it is the same kind of story. It's hard to word how I feel all about all of that, because I still think they're all great. I enjoy all of them, but not all of them, but you know, like I'm thinking of like The Lady of the Rivers about Jacquetta of Luxembourg, which is by Philippa Gregory. I loved that book. I gave it a 4 point something, but I just had so much fun with it, the atmosphere and everything. And we're getting that same thing here, but right, people are probably more drawn to Maggie O'Farrell than they would be Philippa Gregory, like the people on like TikTok and all of that, which is really interesting to think about. But let's talk about the writing. The writing is my issue with this, my gripe. I would give it a 3, and it would be a low 3 because it's so long-winded. I sent a picture of a paragraph to my friends. I was like, it has no business being a paragraph that takes up 2 pages. That's just not right. It's too long-winded. And I told y'all about like describing this one thing when we got that same description of like, okay, I understand the point in one paragraph, but let's add another paragraph after that. That is when I already get the point. I don't need that put out for me. I don't need it explained that much to me. So maybe Maggie O'Farrell just doesn't trust the reader and wants to really get her point across. I don't know. I don't really know anything about her. Oh my gosh, Fred, he jumped off the bed. That scared me. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, so the writing is just too long-winded, and it just takes me forever to get through, and I'm like, oh my gosh, can we get to the point where if I get to where I have skimmed like those paragraphs I told you that are 2 pages long, like no, I'm not doing that. I'm skipping. Like I'll read the first few sentences and then like the last few sentences of the paragraph, and then, you know, yeah, I'm not reading 2 pages of that. And then plot again. So I was given the plot a 5, but now that I'm thinking like this isn't really anything new to the table, 4, but yeah, intrigue I would give a 4 though, so that's where I think I'm kind of confused of where I want to rank that. Maybe even a 3 for intrigue, just because of those pacing issues. This is extremely slow paced, and I'm just wanting it to rapido, you know, that's what they said. Like I remember that a thing being in Spanish class. I hope that means fast, but yeah, we need to speed things up. I want it to be rapid. And logic, yeah, definitely works out. And then enjoyment, yeah, I would say a 4, because I would say this is like a 3.75 for me. I do like it better than I liked Disillusioned, which I know is a nonfiction book, but I gave that a 3.5, so I think this would be more of a 3.75. Those are my thoughts, my kind of review on The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. It was a 5-star prediction, but it's looking like it's going to be, as I said, 3.75 vibes. Don't know what it's actually going to end up to when I do call pal, but again, you can check out my link tree down below to see all the places that I write book reviews on. It's time for the last clip of the vlog. I got to 25%, and people like her, and this isn't doing a whole lot for me, but I guess I'll say what I like and what I don't like. I do like with the characters, we have whoever this whoever's going to be the criminal. I don't know if they're going to be a stalker or a killer or a kidnapper or what, but we had their perspective. Then we have Emmy, who is the mother, and Dan, is that his name, who is the father? But so we have all these perspectives, and I do like seeing, like, with this social media, because I have read books with with influencers as characters, but never like the influencer's partner and all of that. I think that's really interesting just to see the dynamics of this relationship, especially with like the family. She's an Instagram mom is what she says. So seeing, because, you know, they obviously have that connection of having children together, and just to see like that outsider perspective kind of, I think that's cool. The atmosphere, it's British, like, it's not playing a huge part or anything. The writing, okay, this is a writer duo. It's a married couple. Let me show you them. There they are. And I'm assuming he's writing the man and she's writing the woman. And honestly, so all that is fine. But at first I thought like this felt like they were telling, you know, like maybe a police record or a documentary or something, like they were talking to somebody. And now it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like a normal book. Like, this is just how a book's written. It's not, the writing's not consistent, and it's not even like, I can't say that Emmy's chapters are where it feels like they're on a documentary, and then Dan's chapters feel like they're just it's a normal book. No, it will be like Dan first felt like he was doing like a confessional, you know, telling his side of the story, and now it just doesn't feel like that. So the writing, it flows weird, I guess. I don't know really how to explain that other than what I just told y'all. But the plot, I am curious where this is going to go. I'm not too intrigued or anything. I'm at 25% and just kind of bored, honestly, and it's a thriller, so I don't think I am supposed to feel that way. But I do want to talk about next week's vlog. Let me confirm that this is next week's vlog that I have in mind for what we're doing. So next week's vlog will be the buddy read vlog. It's going to be the book club vlog, and we are going to be reading Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This book is or the book club is over on Fable, which again, the link tree is down below if you guys would like to join and read along with me. There are chats on the app that we can talk in about each chapter. But even if you don't have the app, feel free to pick up this book and you can leave comments on the vlog that I'm going to be doing. But on the vlog, you can't do spoilers in the comments or I will delete the comment. If you're going to do spoilers, you need to be over on Fable or message me privately, but I don't like DMing people really unless I know them. And yeah, you know, like just what we were talking about, people like her, with everything you put out on the internet, you need to be careful. But let me tell you about what the buddy read is about. Out on a Limb, we have our main character, Winifred, who goes by Win, and she unexpectedly gets pregnant from a one-night stand. And during her pregnancy, she actually finds love, and that's going to be just really, I obviously have read from pregnant characters before, talking about like those historical fictions earlier, but I've never read like a romance where the character is pregnant right off the bat, where unexpected pregnancies right off the bat. It's not just coming up late in a book, and I think it's going to be really intriguing, and it is one of the highest rated romance books on my TBR. I know people here on YouTube and people on TikTok love it, so that should be a lot of fun for us to read. Now, I didn't finish any books in this vlog. I do think I could finish The Marriage Portrait tomorrow, but I really don't know. It's going to be a busy few days for me here. And oh yeah, we have Valentine's Day next week. I won't be seeing Valentine's Day. I'm trying to think of what else. I did haul some books. I got my book of the month package, so that was nice. So I got 2 books this week. It's only an account to 1, but I am going to Goodwill tomorrow, so it should be super fun. It'll have already happened, so you guys are just gonna have to stay tuned for the haul at the end of the month to find out what I got at Goodwill. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it all the way through, leave a heart emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe in order to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.